Okay, hello again, everybody. We're back. We have triumphantly returned, and yeah, I'm really excited today to have this discussion about Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. So, Lily, do you remember a time before you saw The Last Jedi, and before you saw it in theaters, like how you felt about this movie, and like how you felt about the series in general? Like, what were your feelings then, if you can recall what it was like?
Um, I was excited to see Luke, but I will full disclosure, I had chosen not to see this movie in theaters. I decided to wait. And then when I eventually said I feel like Twitter was a much happier, well, not happier. I feel like Twitter was a different place before this.
It was a different time, yes. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I feel like Tumblr was probably a different place. Any website where fans gather, any app where fans gather. I feel like the Discord was just a little different.
I think there were things about this movie that Tumblr liked.
I mean, it's great for GIF sets. I will say that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
So I was definitely excited. I was, I liked The Force Awakens a lot. I was happy with where that set us off. I was looking forward to seeing this movie. Yeah, and I was like, Rogue One had come out the year before, and that was like, I remember seeing that in the theater with my friend, and I was like, okay, this is cool, and fucking Vader showed up at the end, and I was like,
yeah, that was great. I did see Rogue One in theaters. That was worth it. That was worth it.
So, yeah, we're in a good place, I'd say. They had, done 2 movies that were successful. Yeah. Oh boy. This film has spawned 1,000 like different negative movements. I mean, this film created a level of toxicity that almost like rivals what happened when people started having a backlash against George Lucas with the prequels.
I think George was pretty happy that the heat had finally gone away from him.
It really did. I think this movie made that heat subside, because once the steam really picked up, this movie caused a backlash that still, I would say, still to this day, is still being felt in the sphere of the fandom. Not just for this film, but like there are people who basically started their career in the online media space, whatever we want to call that toxic sphere.
Commentary, I guess.
Yeah. And that's all that they do, is attack this movie, other films or TV shows in the Star Wars universe. There are people that then branched out into attacking Marvel. They've come up with all these pithy, funny names about how to attack the next phase because there's not enough white dudes. Honestly, like that's basically their argument.
Cry me a fucking river.
Yeah, cry me a fucking river. It's like, okay.
It's not like you have almost 100 years of movies with just white guys in it.
It's not only that, but like the main characters, Stephen Strange is a white dude.
Tony Stark is a white dude. Spider-Man is a white dude.
Spider-Man is a white teenager.
Hope is a white and green dude. Nobody's bitching about that.
It's hilarious. Like all of the major characters are still white, and they're mostly white dudes. But like they're still mad. Perplexing.
Well, they're mad because people of color who have often been relegated to being a sidekick or a supporting character are now taking up the mantle of being a leading character, and get the fuck over yourselves.
Yeah.
So fucking river.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's really kind of I don't know. It's a sad state that our fandom is in, where. And let's say, like I'm sure, Lily, you know about the Star Trek shit. Like the Star Trek, that stuff went wild. I mean, once they started making those new TV shows, what's the newest? Like Enterprise? What was the first one? Discovery.
Yeah, Discovery was the first one that came out.
Discovery was like, oh my god, she's a black woman, attack.
Like, it's crazy. Is that wasn't? I feel like Uhura was a thing. I feel like Cassidy Yates was a thing. I feel like KLR was a thing. Actually, that's a mistake. KLR is not a woman of color. Actually, she's played by a white woman. That's a whole thing entirely. Anyway, I don't know. But no, it's
like all these fandoms, and it's happening concurrently. And it's all the same. It's all the same arguments. Oh my god, it's this, that.
And they can't tell me there isn't a degree of racism or sexism in it there Benjamin Sisko was the leading man and the leading actor of Deep Space Nine. He was a man of color, and then there is a suspiciously enormous amount of hate that Discovery gets, and I genuinely do believe that it's because Sonequa Martin Green is a leading woman who is black. And it's very obvious, and you can't really deny it. And then everything that happened with the actress who was playing a young Uhura in Strange New Worlds, I'm just like, so you're mad that she's not relegated to being in a miniskirt. That's what it sounds like you're mad about.
It's so weird, and you could tell they were salivating.
Like,
and it's just sick. It's like,
because she's wearing long sleeves and she's got short hair and she's wearing pants. You're mad.
It's like, dude, this is Star Trek.
It's like I feel like we've gotten past the point of creating sex symbols because they're virtually fucking useless. I'm sorry, yeah. They're kind of useless to pop culture as besides just exploiting someone's body, which is still really creepy to me. I think they're just mad that this new.
That's kind of a sexy show, to be honest. Like, it's kind of a second, like what they did with Pike. I mean, that dude's peepcocking all the time in that show.
I mean, I think also he's just a nice guy. He's not threatening. He's not sexually harassing anybody. He's being supportive. He's more like Picard than any other captain, honestly. He has his love interest, but it's usually pretty on the down low, and it's not like in your face, like kissing a babe in like a holodeck or some shit, or doing whatever Kirk was doing with
Kirk was
babes. It's not the Pike of the Cage where a green woman's giving him a lap dance. So he's just a nice guy who's not threatening for once.
Yeah.
Like Picard.
And on top of that, now it's even gone into like again, they're just lining up and it's like they don't even care. It's not about the content. It's about the hate. Spreading the hate.
Oh yeah, I honestly wonder how many of these people actually hate what they're saying they hate. Like, you hate that many things?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's like the Ring show comes out and it's like it gets attacked immediately.
Yeah,
and it's
I rue to know what you actually do like. Like, that's what's scary to me. It's just kind of I find it very hard to believe that you hate watching that many things. I really do. I think a lot of them are just liars who just want to get clicks and views. Yeah. Which, like, hey, that's your bag, baby. Fine, but I prefer honest commentators who give good constructive criticism, and I don't waste my time with fuckboys who just want to get clicks because they have no life.
Exactly.
Like, go outside.
Yeah, touch grass, please.
There's national parks you can go to.
Yeah, or anything.
Really nice.
Just anything. Just get off the internet.
Watch something outside of this genre. That's the thing. There's so many genres out there that are really, really good and fun and just wholesome, and like, just get out of the genre.
Or just like go back to the things you like. If you like the original series and TNG, watch that. Just watch it.
You can do an
it's
entire
on Netflix
series
or
of
whatever.
watching like each season.
Yeah,
like it's really that easy. And I think
leave everyone else alone.
I think just hating things is very profitable, and it's extremely profitable. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are just blowing smoke. Honestly, I find it very hard to believe this many people hate something that passionately. Like,
especially, I mean, not to like throw shade, but like stuff like Star Trek, like, come on, like the people who care, it's like a very small niche audience of people who care. But like, there's all these people who are like, oh my god, it's so woke, and it's like, bro, it's like, bro, like,
always been that way. It's
what?
literally always been
anything about Star Trek. Like the whole, like the purpose, the mission statement is to break boundaries in terms of our social understanding of human beings. That's the whole point of the
Yeah,
show.
and even with that being said, we've only had 2 leading actors be people of color, and we've only had 2 female captains, and it's still supposed to be an incredibly progressive show. And it still has work to do. It still has work to do. Like, so like I'm not saying it's perfect or anything, but at least it's fucking trying. And I can't, like, if you're saying that you've never noticed that Star Trek is woke, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, we're not watching the same show, or we're not watching it the same way or with the same intent. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just
it's like, you remember when we watched that Black Mirror episode with that dude who was like really into basically the equivalent of Star Trek?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And then he created, like, that's the way they view it. They want it in a box. You know, Kirk is the captain, and you know everyone else. You know, it's me. Like, they think they're Kirk, and they think that their best homie is Spock, and everyone else is in their place.
Well, your best friend is still an alien.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, your best friend is still like something that's other, technically.
Yeah.
But you want it to be the other you want it to be. You want it to be comfortable. You want it to be familiar. You want it to be non-threatening. You don't want it to. You want it to be intelligent, but you still want the human to figure it out before the Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want.
They want everyone else to be subservient to.
Exactly. You want everyone else to be subservient. You want the women in the miniskirts or in the tube tops or in the go-go boots with the beehives. And it's like, sorry, we're not in the 1960s anymore. That shit is tired and old and doesn't work. It just doesn't. It doesn't work anymore. Like, we
No.
like, ugh. But I'm going to continue making videos where I actually enjoy things, because at least I'm not just someone who's just a prick spreading, because I don't want to sell out. That's the thing. I think a lot of it's just selling out. Because it's easier to just say you hate something and be a dick about it than actually be true to yourself and give an honest opinion and say that you might have liked something about it, but you don't want this giant following that you now have to turn on you because you sold out. So have fun having no soul.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the plot of this movie. With all that kind of context out of the way. So the film begins with the rebel fleet evacuating a planet, and they are met by the First Order fleet. And so they have this dreadnought, which is massive ship. I'm not sure. I don't know if they do a great job of, like, because again, like, you know, unfortunately, a lot of this feels kind of rehash of, like, you know, Empire Strikes Back. And so, like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, is this like as big as like the Executor, like that Superstar Destroyer, or is it smaller? Or is it the same size? So I guess it's probably like the same size as the Superstar Destroyer, but it's really big, and the rebels are in trouble. And this is you know how we begin the film. Like, the rebels are, well, the resistance. They're like on the run. They're on the ropes. They're close to being like destroyed, basically. Which is very familiar. So then,
Kind of like I've seen this before.
It's got a ring to it. It rhymes. So then Poe shows up, and he like flies towards them by himself, which is fun. And then him and Hux get into this situation where he hails him, I guess you could say, and he's like, it turns into this funny joke or weird joke. We'll get into that. He's like, hey, are you there? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? It's like, blah, blah, all this stuff. Yeah. So this was interesting because in the previous film, Hux is like, he's like one of those guys. He's pretty competent.
Yeah, I feel like he probably would have had to kill a few people to get to where he's at.
Yeah, or step over dead bodies. There's a lot of it too. But they are immediately like, no, this dude's a joke. They turn him into a joke.
I feel like there's a lot of, not retconning going on in this movie, but there's a lot of like, I feel like they tampered with a lot of characters.
Oh, they make some strong changes. Yeah. They go different directions, and Hux is definitely one of them. And this was another thing people complained about. They didn't like that he was a joke. And, you know, I can see going either way on that. I mean, I do like in the first movie he's kind of scary, honestly. He's kind of a scary dude.
He drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Like when he's giving that speech to the First Order, and he's just like, ah!
Yeah.
He's like, he's getting the vein in his forehead, and his eyes are bulging out of his head.
They like galaxy.
Is that Domhnall Gleeson?
Yes.
Yes, I love him. He's really
the Gleason
really
son.
Oh yeah, the son of the Gleason, the Brendan Gleeson. I love that man.
He's good.
Yeah, he's good. He's drank the Kool-Aid. He believes what he's saying. You know, he is a disciple of the First Order, and he loves it. And then in this movie, he's kind of just like
he's a joke.
It's like Mo, Shemp, and Curly all rolled into one.
Yeah, there's a lot of buffoonery with him in this film. But yeah, that was what they decided to do, and so. You know, so then Poe kind of tricked him, and so he then like takes out a bunch of the surface cannons on the dreadnought, so that they can like do a bombing run and blow it up. But then Leia tells him, "Hey, you know, the attack's over. You need to like retreat." And he's like, "What are you talking about? These ships are fleet killers." Blah blah blah. And he basically disobeys orders. So he continues to engage, and the bombers show up. One of these bombers gets like blasted, and we see this girl Paige, and Poe's telling her, "Hey, you got to drop the bomb, do whatever it takes to drop the bomb." And she like fell or something, and then she's like kicking this ladder to get the switch so she can like drop the bombs, and she gets it at the last second. She drops the bombs, they blow up the dreadnought, but then a bunch of people die.
Yeah, I feel like all the bombers died. It was really horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. People complain about this scene too because they're like, "Oh, why are the bombs falling in space?" And it's like, I mean, that's happened like that even happens with the what are those, like, I forget, are they called TIE bombers? I forget. You know, like it's like the way they look, it's like two TIE fighters. You know, there's like that cylinder in the middle of a TIE fighter. Mm-hmm. There's one where it's like two cylinders, and those drop bombs. Those are bombers. We see those in Empire.
I haven't actually thought about it before.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it. Yeah, it's just. At first, I was kind of like, "Oh yeah, good point." Then I'm like, "Oh god, get the fuck over it."
Yeah, I mean,
a technical thing. No, it's a galaxy far, far away. Maybe it's different. I don't know.
It's fantastical. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
You're watching a fucking space opera, and you're worried about that. They've never explained anti-gravity, and you're worried about this.
No.
They haven't explained how the androids have souls, and you're worried about this. Get your nitpicky ass out.
Yeah, no, it's and also, like, by the way, like, I noticed when I watched it, like, you see there's a mechanism that is pulling the bombs down. So the mechanism is pushing the bombs in a direction.
Okay.
It's creating the force that's pushing them down.
Okay.
And so in space, they should just keep going down.
I'll take your word for it. I'll just buy it. It's not something I ever thot about it until you mentioned it.
But this is another thing, like, people decided, like, there's some choices this film made that we'll get to that people disagreed with, and then they went insane. They were like everything. They're like, they gave this film no credence. They were like, "F this movie." And I'm gonna find everything I can hate about it.
I mean, if you didn't like the movie, that's one thing. But being nitpicky is just, I don't abide that. Give me actual criticisms, not just being a baby about something.
And the one thing I'll say is, like, in Star Wars canon, when something drops a bomb in space, it goes down. like I mean, I don't know why that needs to be said, but that is a true fact of Star Wars.
Tell me, why are all the TIE fighters spinning around in space every time they get blasted?
Yeah, it doesn't, like, physics in Star Wars doesn't work. There's sound in space.
They've never explained it, and I don't care. That's the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek. Yeah. Star Wars doesn't explain the science, and nobody cares. Yeah, why are you suddenly caring? You haven't cared for the last 50 years.
It's fantastical. And I mean, I remember someone complained about in The Force Awakens the laser splits from the Starkiller base, and like, well, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, the way that the Death Star in the first film worked is that what was it, like maybe 5 or 6 points of a laser combines to 1 point and then it shoots out. That's not how lasers work, my friend. That's not how a laser
they're just
works.
being nitpicky.
Yeah, it's like,
they suddenly care about science when you didn't for the last 50 years.
It's fantastical.
I don't take that seriously.
Like you said, it's a space opera. It's fantastical.
It's not supposed to make sense.
No.
It's fucking
no.
It's you have Jedi Knights who can control shit with their mind. That doesn't exist in real life either, boo.
No.
Like,
and there's, I mean, George tried to put some kind of science behind it with the midichlorians.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that. Exactly.
We're not going to.
But like the Force is some chi kind of shit. It's just some Eastern religion philosophy, and it's just there. It's just everything. It's everywhere, all around us, as we'll talk about in this film.
Maybe the Force pulled it down. Okay, is that going to make you happy? Maybe it was the Force. Oh God.
Yeah. So then Finn wakes up, and he was in that kind of the BAFTA tank kind of thing. He's like, "Oh, where's Rey?" He's like, "Oh, I gotta find."
That boo she left a while ago.
Yeah,
she left no forwarding address.
And so he talks with Poe, and Poe's like, "Oh, well, she went off to Octo," and then we get, woo man, oh this scene's a lot of fun. So Rey meets with Luke, and again we basically pick up right where they kind of left off in The Force Awakens. She holds out the lightsaber. Picks up the lightsaber, and he literally just tosses it over his shoulder. Whoop! No,
thank you. Nah, bro.
I'm and he walks away. Oh my God! Now I can understand people feeling a certain kind of way about that, because that's a ballsy thing to do, and it's very funny, but it's also very like, oh fuck you.
Have you ever seen Mean Girls?
Have I seen? Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with it. I couldn't tell a lot about it.
This is how I feel a lot of fans reacted to that moment. There's a moment in Mean Girls when Lindsay Lohan, like, everyone's trying to be like the spring fling queen or some shit. You're gonna get one of those shitty plastic tiaras, and like Lindsay wins, and she's just like, "Oh my God, like, why is everyone being so mean to each other over plastic?" And she snaps it in half. And there's a character in the auditorium. He's like, "Oh."
Yeah, because they all care so much about it. Yeah, that's totally right.
How I can just picture a whole bunch of people in a theater being like,
"Oh, what? What do you mean he threw it away? What?
Oh, it's like,
this Luke Skywalker would never do that, never." And this is where it starts.
Maybe old school Luke Skywalker wouldn't have done that. And like, granted, I didn't want to throw it off the cliff face either, but just watch the fucking movie, dude.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, oh man, we live in such an interesting time, because like people, it's so hard. And one of the things this movie tries to do, and I'll give them credit for at least trying to do what they tried to do, which is say, okay, you have these characters that have existed for a long time, and you have all this stuff wrapped up in your perceptions of them, and they tried to take those perceptions and challenge the audience about how they feel about them.
Okay.
And that fucking pisses people off.
People don't like to be challenged.
They don't.
People don't like having to work hard to see the nuances of things. I know I'm generalizing. I'm not saying that that's everybody, but there's a lot of people who don't want to have to look for meaning in something. Yeah. They just want to be entertained. Which is fine. I just want to be entertained too sometimes.
They wanted to see Luke Skywalker, and I don't blame them, because I feel kind of the same way. Like, Luke is my favorite character, I'd say, in Star Wars. And it's just like unfortunate that they didn't like do something like do the sequels instead of the prequel. Like, do the sequels and then do the prequels. Like, if George did the sequels with them when they were younger. Because like when we leave Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi, like he's basically at the height of his power, and it's like there's this very enticing thing where you want to see him be the most powerful Jedi. Like, we never really get him as that, because like basically he doesn't really defeat the Emperor. He chooses to see the good in his dad, and his dad throws him off a freaking cliff.
Anakin's the one who defeats the
Yeah,
Emperor.
he's the one who defeats. So we've never seen him like be the most powerful guy. I mean, basically the closest thing we get to that is something that happens in The Mandalorian.
But
And
yeah, but you
so,
still had to wait like 50 years to get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and so people have that desire. They have the desire, and so when that desire, and like the other thing too is like Rian Johnson. He's like, "Ooh, I know you want it, and I'm not gonna fucking give it to you.
I'm gonna do what I want."
Yeah, and that just, I think that's the real thing. It just really pissed people off, and sort of a term that kind of has come into popular vernacular is the idea of subverting expectations. And people feel like a strong kind of way about the idea of subverting expectations, and this movie really plays into how much people kind of hate when some subversions of expectations don't meet, when they do it in a way that hurts what they think about the characters.
Yeah, but I feel like if Rian Johnson had given them what they wanted, then they still would have been pissed. You know what I mean? And I still feel like there's going to be people who's going to be like, "Oh, so he hasn't learned anything? All of this stuff and blah blah blah." It's like I feel like we've gone to there's not pleasing. You
can't please everybody.
Everybody. I know that, but it's just like I feel like people would have been mad either way. I feel like there was really he made a decision. He made a decision.
Yeah,
but I feel like people would have been still mad about it.
Yeah. So then Luke, he goes into his hut, and we see the lightsaber is being played with by a local species, the little porgs. They're these like puffin-looking creatures.
I hate the puffins. I'm just gonna say it. Everybody seems to love the puffins, and I hate the puffins.
I do like porg. I think they're cute, and I think they were effective in selling toys, which is the.
That's why I think I hate them.
Yeah. It's so hard to not be cynical, because you're like, oh, that's a toy. I
just want to, and like poor Chewie, he's hungry. Like I just wanted to see Chewie go to town on some space pigeons and shit. I just like to eat them. Like fish gotta swim, Chewie gotta eat. Like I was pissed about that. I'm like, he's hungry. He's a predator. Do you see his canines?
He's
massive. His murder paws.
He's a massive dude. And he cooked it, and it looked like a nice little rotisserie, and he didn't get to eat it.
Shit, I wanted to eat that.
They shamed him into not eating it. But then we see like the they're like messing with like the lightsaber. They're like, one of them's basically gonna turn it on, while the other one's like would get killed, and then Rey's like, no, get away. She just takes the lightsaber. Luke's X-wing is submerged in the water. So yeah, this is a Luke in a really bad place. He's in a really bad place, and he's like, I'm done with the world.
I'm gonna be emo and hang out in my hut.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever. Do your thing, bro.
So Chewie busts down the door and is like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And he basically tells him that Han died. And he sort of like, he's still like, oh, I'm kind of. And this is a scene that they cut. Like there's a scene where we actually see him like sort of have a reaction that he died, but they cut it. So we kind of like, yeah, that's another thing too, is like, basically there's a number of choices that, what's his name, did not agree with, the actor. Oh, I'm forgetting his name now.
Mark Hamill?
Yeah. There was a number of choices that Mark Hamill didn't agree with. I think that was one of them. And I think there's a couple others, but it seems like he did sort of like, because he's not an asshole, basically. Like he's a good dude, and he's like a team player when it comes to like making these movies, and like he knows in the long haul, like he's gonna be playing this character until he's dead. Realistically, like they're gonna keep bringing him back, and there's gonna be more stuff, and they're always gonna have him there. Like even when they do this stuff where they de-age him, he's there, and they still have him, and so he's always gonna play this character. He's always gonna be known as this character. He's always gonna be synonymous with this character, and it's sort of his legacy as a human being, honestly, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like you're synonymous with this character.
Yep, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. All the other things he's done, and he's done some other great films, but it'll always be seen as Luke Skywalker, and so that's good and kind of bad. So yeah, he kind of did play ball, but he let out some stuff
Well, I'm sure he did, because he's got a lot invested in this character too. Like, if we think the fans have a lot invested in it, it'd be the guy who's like playing him. You know what I mean? And I'm sure like some of the things that, you know, Rian Johnson wanted to get from him, he was just like, I am Luke. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure a lot of it had to be like I'm sure he was a little proud about some things, but he was a team player, and at least he didn't shit all over it until, you know, it was in the bag.
From what I remember him talking about is like, basically like the way that he saw it, like something even worse than what is talked about in this film needed to happen to Luke for him to do what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're going to find out where he's at. So at least basically he said, oh, in my head canon of what happened to Luke, it's even worse. Like, we don't even talk about the worst things that happened in the movie. So basically, in order for Luke to have done what he did, abandoned the Force, abandoned the Resistance, he went through something even worse than just like the Kylo Ren killing everybody. Like, that was just the beginning, and then something else even worse happened, which I found interesting. So then we see Snoke and Kylo. So Snoke kind of got mad at Hux because it's like, oh, you let him get away. He's like, no, I'm tracking them, so it's okay. And, you know, Hux and Kylo, they still have this like, oh, I'm the teacher's pet kind of weird thing going on.
I am. I'm mommy's favorite.
I'm the favorite, and he likes me because you suck and you're emo.
You know, you're all emo. God.
Yeah, they really are, actually.
You're all going to the My Chemical Romance together, okay?
Yeah. So then Snoke is like, Snoke basically just like, in this meeting, he just totally shits on him. He's like, oh, you're weak, you know, you killed him, but it really, you were conflicted. Take off that mask, you look like shit. And so then he's like,
I love that.
Yeah.
As he does.
Yeah. So yeah, he kind of kicks the dog in this situation. He's kind of motivating him, you know, do some negativity to get him to kill Luke. Basically, that's what he wants him to do. He's like, find Luke, kill him, and end the Jedi.
And then maybe I'll throw you a bone.
Mm-hmm, yeah, maybe I'll give you a little bit of praise. So then Kylo gets in the elevator and gets super pissed, and he destroys his mask, and then he never wears it again in the whole rest of the movie. I mean, he basically calls him a poser, right? It's like,
yeah, I mean, basically, he is.
Yeah,
You're trying to be this big, dark, mysterious, evil person. Oh, where have I seen that before, Kylo? Ugh.
Yeah. And this is another thing too, where it's like, when we talk about, unfortunately, the Rise of Skywalker, you can kind of tell there's this weird kind of pendulum balance between this movie and the JJ films, where it's like, JJ does this thing like, oh, he's gonna wear this mask and he's gonna kind of look like Vader, and then this film's like, no, that's fucking stupid, and we're gonna like make him destroy it. And then the third movie's like, well, we're gonna make him repair it and bring it back and blah blah blah. And it's like not on the same page at all. And it just this helter skelter, like pendulum swinging like a seesaw. It just makes everything worse.
It also feels like there's no plan. You know what I mean? It kind of just feels like you're just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. Like, it doesn't feel like there was a plan after The Force Awakens. Force Awakens felt planned. It had a very good beginning, middle, and end. And then these last two movies, in my opinion, it's just like, it just felt very scattered.
This movie threw the plan out the window.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest. And then the reaction after the plan was thrown out the window, it got burned. That's basically what happened. So yeah, so he kind of does the negging technique on Kylo, and he gets pissed off. He's like, "Oh, I'm mad. Prepare my ship," and then they fly off because they're gonna go and kill some people, basically. And then so then back on Ahch-To, Rey's like, "Oh, you have to help us, blah blah blah." He's like, "What do you think? What do you think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go walk out there with a laser sword and face down the whole First Order?" And he's like, "No, I'm not gonna help you." Now people did not like the term laser sword.
He was being facetious. Yeah. Get over it. He's a gnarly dude living in a cave who probably smells bad and is milking space
He's
cows on a
milking,
rock face. He's being fucking facetious because he doesn't care. Ugh.
Could you imagine? People legitimately. Oh, he said
It is a laser sword.
He made him say laser sword. He's disrespecting the canon. Like,
because he doesn't care. This Luke doesn't give a shit about your precious little canon.
He doesn't believe in that anymore. He doesn't believe that he can do anything or change. Yeah, he milks the, what do they call it? Thula siren? The green milk?
I don't know, but it was fucking gross, and I could have done without that.
It was very weird. And they had him drink. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, that part, like, I honestly, like, I don't love this movie at all, but I don't mind how bitchy and angry that Luke is. But that was too much. I did not need that.
It's a visual. That's your got milk commercial for you right there.
God, no, thank you. I'm good. I did not need to see that.
Yeah. So then Rey gets called into this cave. She can like feel the Force or hear the Force. And there's a bunch of Jedi texts there. And then Luke's like, oh, she's not just some rando person. She's Force sensitive. And she's like, why are you here, Rey? And she's like, oh, I need a teacher. He's like, I will never train another generation of Jedi. I came here to die. It's time for the Jedi to end. Okay. Right. So, back on the ship with the Resistance. So Leia demotes Poe for insubordination.
Rightfully
she slaps him in the face. Yeah.
Rightfully so.
So this is another thing that people hate. So this is another one of these things like, oh well, there's an agenda. Like we're gonna make all the male characters stupid.
I mean, they are kind of stupid. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, he is stupid, and that's kind of the point. That's the point. He's stupid, and he doesn't listen, and he thinks he knows more than everyone else. It's like, no, there's a structure and a hierarchy of the military for a reason. You blow up stuff, and you listen to the orders of the people above you, or else there's a collapse, and that's kind of what was almost happens in this movie because he doesn't fucking listen.
Because he's a dope.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know where all of this cockiness suddenly comes from with Poe because you're literally just a pilot. Like,
yeah.
Did he get promoted at the end of The Force Awakens or something? Like, I don't remember seeing any kind of promotion. I could totally be wrong. I don't know where he suddenly thinks he can talk to Leia like this. Like, it's just disrespectful. You know,
like, it's super disrespectful.
If you're saying if you're making the argument that they made all of the male characters subservient to women, then I think what we're seeing is a shitty little asshole being disrespectful to a woman who's given her entire life to the Rebel Alliance and has literally fought since a child who knows way more than Poe does. I think I just see
who got kidnapped.
I think I see Rian Johnson just being disrespectful to Leia. That's what I see. I see whoever fucking wrote this being like, oh, Leia's just an old woman. She's going to be mean to him. And she's going to slap him in the face. It's like, I'm kind of sick and tired of my favorite like female characters who have meant so much to me just be completely disrespected by all of these sequels and shit. Like they did it to Sarah Connor in Dark Fate. Like, and I'm just kind of over it. It's like, they know more than you do. Shut up, Poe. Fly your little X-Wing and shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good pilot.
Yeah, he's a great pilot.
He's not a general.
That's all he's not a general. He's not. He doesn't create battle plans. He's given the battle plans.
Yes, exactly. So the fleet's running out of fuel, and they can only warp once. They warp, but then they kind of track him while warping. So Kylo shows up. He's got this sort of advanced TIE fighter, and he's wrecking people. He blows up the hangar. So they can't. Basically, the Resistance, they can't really like kind of meet them in the aerial combat, as it were, because like all their ships get blown up. So then Kylo kind of like he locks onto the bridge, and then he knows like, oh shit, my mom's there. You know, he can feel her in the Force, and so then he hesitates. But then TIE fighters bomb it anyway, and so this kills like everybody. You see everyone gets sucked out into space, and oh boy, here's another one. We see Leia, so everyone's dead, and you know we'll talk about later who's dead, but everyone's dead. Leia uses the Force to get herself from space back into the ship. And fans have very kindly dubbed this the Mary Poppins moment. And so, what did you think about this moment in the film? How did it play for you when you first saw it?
I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was very confused. I was like, didn't love it, didn't hate it. Just kind of meh, honestly. Just kind of meh about it. I love seeing Leia be awesome and strong and stuff like that, and I always wanted to see her do more with the Force.
Yeah.
I think because Carrie Fisher had already passed away, it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know why. I think it was just kind of... I don't know. I guess I just have weird feelings about it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I just kind of... Meh.
Yeah, so I thought it was kind of strange. I feel the same way as you. Like, I really do like the idea behind it, which is she's Force sensitive, and we know that she's able to do stuff with the Force. We just haven't seen it. She hasn't been trained, but she still has that ability. And so the idea of creating a scenario where we get to see her do that, I thought totally makes sense. The execution of this is just a little weird.
I agree. I think what would have been actually kind of more interesting is if she stopped the blast with the Force. Kind of like how Kylo holds that laser blast in the beginning of The Force Awakens, and he has that whole conversation with Poe Dameron while it's just like hanging out there. I think it would have been cool if Leia had just been like, bam, like just held up her hand and
stopped it, deflected it, redirected it.
Yeah, I think even like just slapping it away and it goes and hits one of the TIE fighters, or it knocks Kylo when he starts spinning or something like that. Like, I feel like something more, I don't know how this is going to sound, something more mom-ish, I guess. Kind of like, nope, not slapping a kid or anything, but just being like, nope, I'm saying no to that kind of a thing. I think it would have been cooler and maybe would have like settled better with fans if she had just like deflected it or stopped it.
Because I really like the idea behind it. It totally makes sense. Like showing, and this is a very dramatic thing. She basically keeps herself from dying.
Yeah.
Using the Force, and that's very cool. Very cool. And we've never seen anything like this in Star Wars. And again, they're really pushing the boundaries in this movie. Like they're gonna push your buttons.
Yeah, and they're kind of showing you like what else the Force can do. You know what I mean? Like, it already makes the Jedi live very long lives anyway. Yeah. Like, meh. Yeah, I don't know. I think I agree with you that the execution was poor, and I feel like they could have done something, honestly, just kind of cooler and just less meh. All I can think of is just meh.
It just comes off. It's like, she did that. It just has this weird, like, almost there's a level of unbelievability. There's just a level of like weirdness to it, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It just you watch and you're like.
See, I was gonna say unbelievability too, but then again, it's a movie about people who can move shit with their mind,
I totally agree. I totally agree with you.
But I do think that the suspending of the reality might play something.
It's just it just feels like. Again, you can see the idea there. You can see, they wanted to do this. It's just the way they decided to execute it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But like you said, if she deflected it,
it doesn't feel right for Leia.
If she deflected it with her hand, or she like redirected it or something like that, or something else, we would have been like, oh yeah, because like it does give you this like thing like, whoa, okay, she's using the Force and she has this ability innate in her that we all know is there. And that's really cool. That's a really cool idea to like try and show the audience. But I don't know. It's also like you said, like this is also like a fake out death too. Like I feel like that's a big part of. Like,
I think that might be a big part of it too. Is that like Carrie Fisher had died? I don't want to see her get blown up. Like And I think people are hanging on to that first initial of, oh my god, that's what you do to Leia. Like that's
people. There's just something like fake out deaths. They hardly ever work. Well, not hardly, but like you got to be very careful with them.
Yeah, and the fact that again she had just died, I think was just not a cool thing to do. And now I will give them some credit that maybe that's what they had to work with because she did pass away. Maybe they needed to do some reshoots and she obviously wasn't around to do any of them. Maybe they couldn't make her do something else. Maybe this was all they had. You know what I mean? Like if that's what you have to work with, then that's what you have to work with. But yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. So on Octo, Luke enters the Falcon and he gets yelled at by R2D2. Undeservingly.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. And so then he kind of has a little change of heart and he's like, tomorrow at dawn, 3 lessons. So after the attack, basically everybody who was in their command structure was in that, whatever you want to call it, like they all
Bridge.
died. Yeah, in the bridge, they all died.
Which is why you don't have everybody important in the same place at the same time when you're a tiny rebel alliance.
Yeah. They all died except for Leia, and she's in a coma. Including like this is the other thing that pisses people off, right? So Admiral Akbar was there, and he's dead. I understand. I mean, I totally get seeing our fish friend get killed does not feel good. Seeing him killed like that does not feel good. Now, again, this is another thing that this movie's doing. Like, we'll talk about it later, but like Kylo kind of like almost sort of states the theme, which is let the past die, and they fucking mean that. Literally, we're going to kill everything in this franchise. Like, I think that's really what he wanted to do with this movie. And his view was, I'm going to kill or destroy everything that was, and we're going to move on. We're going to move on with these new characters because they're going to be dead, or we're going to have moved on from them.
I agree, but a lot of the movie is just the first 3 movies. Like a lot of it is just revisiting. If you're letting the past die, go your own way and do your own thing. Don't show me the same shit I've seen my whole life. Like her going into the cave and having a vision quest. Seen that. Nothing fucking new at all. Like raising the X-Wing out of the water. I've seen that. Like it's just.
Well, to be fair, that doesn't happen in this movie.
Okay, so
but it's there. It's in the water, though.
The same emotional drama and beats are still there. Like it's still same movies.
Even the stuff like we'll see at the end, it's very Hoth-like planet where they're battling.
Yeah, and it's just they have the fucking crystal foxes, which I thought were so fucking lame. I'm just like, who cares about the fucking crystal foxes? I don't care. It's just useless.
Well, it's a toy.
Again, yeah, it's just another fucking toy. But like, yeah. I don't know. I see I see the whole let the past die, but I still feel like he leans far too much on the original movies at the same time. Just
So then we get to another thing that pissed people off for reasons that are silly. The person who takes over is Vice Admiral Holdo. So who's the actress who played Holdo?
Laura Dern.
Yeah, Laura Dern. Who's
I like Laura Dern.
Wow, she looks really good in this movie, to be honest. But unfortunately, like she has purple hair, and of course, people got pissed. Like, oh, of course they have the purple-haired feminists take over.
What does purple mean?
It's a dumb meme. Like,
does it have like some like meaning for feminism?
No, of course
not.
Oh
my god!
They've created a character. Oh, this is not a joke. They've created a caricature, which is that all feminists are women that have dyed hair, who I don't know, like that. That's a part of it. Like they're white women who have dyed hair.
I only gave you one of those boxes. Most feminists I know have one color on their head. That's the narrative they're trying to push of what all one of my brothers does that.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, I'm not joking. Like you will find people that say like, of course the person took over was the purple haired feminist. Like
maybe she just likes the color. Maybe it's just an
She
aesthetic.
she looks really good.
Maybe it's just a thing. I will say I don't like this character at all, but it has nothing to do with any of that.
Oh.
It has nothing to do with any of that.
And honestly, I think we're not supposed to like this character takes a turn, and we're not supposed to like her. But when we see the turn that the character takes, we're supposed to like think about why we felt a certain way. And I think there's a lot of people who were like, no, I don't like, what I'm saying? They're like, I don't like being wrong. I don't like the feminist person being right. I don't want to be wrong and the purple-haired feminist person be right.
Well, I mean, that could be one reason why people don't like her. I mean, she comes with some really great cred. Like, she's got like a badass background or whatever. I don't like her because she doesn't do anything. That's the only reason why I was like, oh, cool, Laura Dern's going to be in a Star Wars movie. This is going to be great. And she just doesn't do anything. Yeah. That's why I don't like her characters, because she doesn't do anything. I think the background is great. I think she looks great. I love Laura Dern. I think she's a phenomenal actress. But she doesn't do anything. And I think that's what kind of pissed me off, was the fact that, like, it's the same with Gwendolyn Christie. She didn't do anything.
Oh my gosh.
It's the same with what you did to Finn. He doesn't do anything. You have all of these great caliber actors, and you don't do anything with them.
Yeah.
And all Poe does is bitch at her when she's honestly right the whole time. Like, people can, you can, like, I understand what you mean when you say, like, we're not supposed to like her, and I totally get that, but she's right. Like, she's also telling, like, we're literally, like, we have, like, 5 people left, and you just want to keep fighting when we don't have the manpower to fight.
Right,
like,
he wants to go on a suicide mission.
Yeah, if you want to go, like, I would have sent him on his fucking suicide mission and do one last freaking bee in her bonnet. But, like, but with all of that being said, she doesn't do anything until the very, 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 very end.
Yeah, the very end, yeah.
And she just does what Poe's been bitching at her to do the whole fucking time, and it's just
Well, like, so their first conversation, she's like basically he asked Holda, okay, what's the plan? And he's like, well, I don't have to tell you the plan, and on top of that, like, you got demoted. The last thing she did was demote you, so I'm definitely not telling you anything. So you need to take my orders, follow my orders, and go over there, Flyboy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And he didn't like that, and I think a lot of audience members also did not like that. But maybe they just didn't like being told the truth by women that have more power than them. Honestly,
it's the purple hair. That's all it is. It's just the
so then Finn gets this beacon that is like basically can tell him like the location where Rey is, and he's trying to leave. He tries to get an escape pod. So he is stopped by Rose. And Rose is there. So I'm just going to do a quick aside about this whole thing, because this needs to be talked about. So the thing, it's one thing to go online and be like, it's another thing to like actually harass people. And the targets are always the same. So Kelly Marie Tran was cast as Rose. They fucking always attack the person of color, the black, the Asian, Hispanic. That's the person who gets fucking attacked. And she got attacked off of the internet, basically, social media, because of this movie. And it's like, it's so perplexing to me that she got attacked. Like, her character is what's there to hate about her character in this movie?
Yeah.
I don't understand. But she got attacked off the internet for this movie, basically.
No, it's really awful. It's terrible. I don't care for, not necessarily Rose's character. I don't like why she was there. And the reason why is to deflect off of Finn's potential relationship with Rey. Obviously, and there was something there, and I think they threw Kelly Marie Tran to the wolves. I don't see Disney really defending their actors or having any kind of protection for them or any kind of just care for their actors, especially new up and coming actors. I think it's kind of just a sink or swim kind of a thing. Maybe they did. Maybe they put out some kind of bullshit statement that they always have to put out that really has no meaning whatsoever. But I don't hate Rose. I just like she's just there. She just exists to be this character that I think was written for shitty reasons.
It's just like you said, they wanted her so that they could give Finn something to do that was not related to Rey. And
yeah, they made it a buddy thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is that even though I don't like their subplot and the adventure that they eventually go on, the fact that it's two people of color going on their own separate adventure and doing something that's, like, while it's not my favorite thing, I like seeing that.
Yeah.
I like seeing them be buddy-buddy, and I like seeing them, that there's potential for them to go off and do their own cool shit.
Mm-hmm. And she likes him. Like it's...
Oh, yeah,
it's,
she's like a huge fan.
From the jump, she's like a fangirl of him. She knows who he is. She knows what he did. She's like, oh, you're a hero, blah, blah, blah. And of course, he kind of, Finn, he kind of immediately breaks that sort of,
spell.
Well, yeah. Although she still kind of likes him, but she's like, you're a scumbag. But I
also just don't like that there's no pay. They wrote Rose to be this kind of distraction character for him, this potential love interest. They don't do anything. There's no follow through. There's no payoff in the final movie. Like, there's no. I think we see her once.
But that's like what you talked about, getting thrown to the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
What they do to her in the third movie is like, ooh, it kind of hurts.
It's very degrading. It's very dehumanizing.
Really is.
For a character that just cares about people and animals and sentient beings, they completely just dehumanize her as a person.
Like they basically said, looked like they sat down when they were writing that third movie, and they said, the fans hate this character, and we're not going to defend her.
No, I think that was their whole statement with what they did with her in the third movie. It's like, got us some bad...
They said, we will not defend her when she got attacked off the internet. They said, like, it might piss some people off, and we want to sell more tickets.
Gone.
Just,
screen time obliterated.
And that fucking hurts, man. Like, that really... And then you got... But she did her job. She sucked it up. She did the press. She did all that stuff. And they fucking threw her under the bus, and she still, I mean, I don't know. I like that takes a lot of fortitude. That takes a lot of strength to be able to do what's right. Because there are people who love the character and they want to see her be in the movie, and
I would like to see her return with better material.
Yeah,
write her something better, because what you wrote her was lazy, and she deserved more than that, and that's really unfortunate. Because she's not a bad actress. I don't know what the complaint. You can't, like, her acting isn't bad. Her character's just there. That's all. She's not offensive. She's not threatening. She's not crude. She's not. She's just there. Like, I don't know how people can criticize someone who's just existing. And it
just sucks in this movie. She's there so that the audience knows that you need that the thing that's going to happen is Kylo and Rey. Not Rey and Finn.
Exactly.
That's it. That's the whole purpose.
Yeah.
Of her character.
And that's really that to write a character with that intent, I think, is really low. I think it's really low.
Yeah. Can't disagree with you there. So Rose is like crying. So because basically what we learn is, like, she has this little medallion, and her sister had the other half, I think. And her sister was the one in the bomber plane that, made sure the bombs dropped, but then died. So her sister just died. And Finn's like trying to bounce, and so she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I know who you are." Blah blah blah. Like, she knows his whole story, and she thinks he's a hero, but then she sees that he's trying to, get in one of the escape pods. I mean, she's like, "Oh, I already had to stun like 3 different people." It's like, "Oh, that's crazy. People trying to leave. That's terrible." And then she stuns him. But then, like, he's talking about, like, oh, someone, they tracked us in space, and then they kind of get to talking, and then they basically figure out like that the First Order is tracking one of the ships, and that they can disable the tracker on the Dreadnought, and then the whole fleet would be able to escape. So then they tell Poe, And Poe's like, we're not telling Holdo.
Yeah, because that's gonna end so well.
Yeah, exactly. So then they call Maz, and Maz is this scene is also kind of ridiculous. This scene with Maz Kanata, like she's on the hologram phone and she's like spinning around shooting at people like, oh, it's a labor dispute. I was like, what?
I actually kind of think it's fun. I actually like that. It's cute.
It is, yeah. It's just like a little, you could feel that they were like, oh, we forgot to put Maz in this. We have this expository scene. We'll just have her running around shooting at something, and we'll make something up and tell a joke, and then have her get them to the next plot point that they need. So Maz tells them, hey, you got to go to this gambling planet and find a code breaker. Okay. So then Rose and Finn are off to do that. So Rey and Kylo begin to have a Force connection. They force Skype.
They force it. That's what they do. They're forcing it down our freaking throat. That's what.
They can only see each other. They can't see their surroundings. And, Rey shoots at him, and he kind of feels it. But it doesn't actually hit him. It just hits the wall where she's in her little hut and puts a hole in it. And then there's these cute little, they're called the Lanai, something like that. They're the island caretakers of these avian sentient species, and they're like, why'd you shoot a hole in the wall? Now I have to fix it. I kind of like them.
You come to our island, you fuck our shit up.
Oh my god.
You really upset Luke, by the way. He was doing really well before you came along.
Yeah, he was just fishing and he wasn't doing anything destructive. And so we were just like taking care of the texts and feeding him some milk.
Being our cute little caretaker selves. Now you're shooting holes in this.
You're shooting holes, yeah. So Luke is going to teach her the first lesson. And the first lesson is, he asks her, like, oh, what's the Force? He's like, oh, the Force is what gives the Jedi their power. He's like, no, not at all.
Wrong,
Force...
young Padawan.
Exactly.
Wrong, young grasshopper.
It's the energy between all things. It's a tension. It's a balance that binds the universe. And so lesson number 1 is the Force does not belong to the Jedi. And so to say that if the Jedi die, the light dies is vanity. So the Jedi can die, and then there's no one should care. And so that's why I'm going to die. Like, that's basically what he says.
I mean, yeah, he's right. It doesn't belong to anybody. It's just a thing.
Yeah. It's a thing in the universe, and it's always going to be there forever. Even if there weren't Jedi, you could call it something else, and they'd still be one with the Force or whatever. So then Rey feels this other thing, the darkness in the island, and she doesn't really resist it. And Luke is like, whoa, that's really bad. You're really powerful, and you don't back away from the dark side of the Force. So that's kind of dangerous. But then she sees Luke close himself off completely from the Force. Ooh. And then he says, like, I've seen this strength in one before. Ben Solo. It didn't scare me then, but it does now. And he walks away.
That was a quick lesson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so he's kind of like, oh, I'm done with you. So then Chewie. Yeah, Chewie. So like the Porgs are like eating through the wires and stuff in the fucking. This is a little too much. This is a little like, hey, we need you to buy these toys. That's kind of like
buy the toys.
Yeah,
buy the toys.
And even a Porg built a nest in the Falcon.
Yeah, get rid of it. It's a vermin.
I mean, honestly, he could just like eat them.
Yeah, well, he likes to cook his food. He's civilized,
He is. But he didn't get a medal.
He didn't get a fucking medal, and no one gave him a hug after his best friend got horrifically murdered and thrown down a cavern. Luke didn't even give him a hug. Did he?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He didn't. No.
Dick.
He didn't. I don't know if that's Luke. I don't know if that's Luke's fault. I think that's the writing's fault. But it seems like they consistently people just shit on Chewie. It's like that's so weird, right? Like, so he busts in and he tells Luke, "Hey, Han died. Han effing died. our friend died. Don't you care? Aren't you going to do something? And he just does nothing. He does nothing.
Yeah.
He literally is like, no.
He's not like, oh, do you want a hug or do you want to talk about your feelings? Like, how are you dealing with this? How are you doing, Chewie? Nope. Can't be bothered.
Oh my god.
What a bitch.
Oh my god. So then we get another Force Skype session. And then Kylo brings up the whole thing with the school shooting. I'm sorry, I mean the Luke school.
It's a massacre either way.
Yeah. And so then he kind of plants a seed of doubt in her mind. And then she kind of ends the Skype session. But then there's like a surf, and some water from the surf like gets on his hand on one of his gloves. And so like they're kind of like, they're really connected, basically. Like even the locations are connected.
He's like, ooh, the water. Mm.
Yeah. So then we get everyone's favorite scene, the Canto Bight scene, this casino planet. So then they're seeing all these people partying and, they're gambling. And Finn's like, oh, this place is great. And Laura's like, no, this place is terrible because everyone here, they're all war profiteers. And on top of that, they also they have these racetracks where they have these animals and they're torturing them for their entertainment. It's terrible. And it's like, yeah. So, just real quick, do you want to what were your feelings on this Canto Bight excursion?
Honestly, I don't like it. I don't like it.
A lot of hate.
It's just, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. It just doesn't feel like Star Wars. It feels like something else. I get that they want to make a statement of people profiting off of a war and all that other stuff, which is true. That's very real. Again, a lot of this I feel like comes down to execution, just like with Leia's scene and everything like that. I just feel like a lot of it's execution, and I don't know. It felt too much like Earth. It's like this Monte Carlo kind of place of gambling, and everything's legal or whatever, which I mean that's not what it's like in Monte Carlo, but just this excess of the 1% kind of a thing. If you have to make it hit that close to home, I don't think you're telling sci-fi very well.
Because that's really the whole purpose of this scene.
Oh, absolutely. It's an absolute statement. It's a statement. Yeah. And I don't think it's a bad statement. I think it's I said, those things are real. People do profit off of war and they spend billions of dollars and get billions back. And it's awful. And it's really terrible. There's something about it though, that just, again, it's just execution, I think. Just not very good.
Yeah, I mean, this scene gets a lot of hate.
The message is great. I think the message is great because I'm very anti-war. But
yeah. And the thing that I really kind of, the more I think about it, the thing I kind of like a lot of people say oh, it doesn't make sense that, the First Order came back and blah, blah, blah. And I think, I think that's fair. But I think that this scene kind of, and again, it could have been done better, but it sort of comes to explain that. And basically, the idea that he's putting forth is that in the Star Wars universe, there are people who care more about profiting and making money from war than not living under fascists.
No, I completely agree because war is profitable.
Yeah. And that's really kind of, I think this scene does sort of serve as another explanation, which is that pretty much there's a bunch of rich people who did not like the rebellion and the resistance, and they just don't care. They don't.
It's bad for business.
Yeah. And so that's why this war happened and then continues to happen, because they're like, well, what we care about is who's going to make us more money. And if that's the First Order, then we want them to win. Yeah.
It's kind of like the, what is it? The Vichys, the French.
Yeah.
1% basically, who are just yeah, we don't care. We'll let, Germany just do whatever they want. Yeah. We'll roll over.
They like them
making us money. Yeah.
They're they're not communists.
Yeah. They're not putting us in a concentration camp. Yeah. So
we're going to sell them some wine.
Yeah, they're going to sell them some wine. They're going to party with them, and they're going to have really awesome galas and steal all of the art from people and be pieces of shit.
Exactly. Yeah, so Finn and Rose, they find the Master Codebreaker guy they're looking for, but then they get arrested. I think we can put in prison. So then back on Octo, time for the next lesson, lesson 2. And then he says, like, now that the Jedi are extinct, they've been romanticized and deified. But when you strip away the myths, their legacy is failure, hypocrisy, and hubris. Now this is a fun one because, like, I feel like this whole thing that he says is basically like, I feel like in the mid 2000s, like especially like right after Revenge of the Sith came out, like you could read a bunch of message boards and people said that, oh, the Jedi fail, and you know, like the Jedi have led to all these terrible things to happen, which
It's
is all
like a
true.
copy and paste from Reddit or some shit.
I'm you know, or yeah, feels like it. Because yeah, I mean, but that's all true. It's all true. Like the Jedi were an organization that was severely flawed. They did all those things, and they perpetually allowed different Dark Lords to do terrible things. Like not even, you know, in the Skywalker timeline. If you keep going back more, there's more, you know, Darth Revan and these other people.
I always was kind of confused by that though, because they're always talking about how there needs to be balance. So like the light can't exist without the dark. So it's almost like they have to let it happen in order for there to be balance, because it can't all just be Jedi. Otherwise, there would be no balance. So whenever they would be like, "Oh, Anakin's supposed to bring balance to the Force," I'm like, "Okay, so does he have to be a middle ground? Is he a gray area that exists within both? Because everybody just wants to kill him." So I'm not sure where this balance keeps coming up, because you keep saying, "Oh, we can't allow the dark side to be powerful." No, you don't want it to be too powerful. You know what I mean? So it's like it's always been like this weird gray area that I've never really felt had a good explanation. If that might just be me though.
No, I think you're definitely got onto something there, because it's like, yeah, there needs to be a balance, but like, how does that balance kind of play out? You know, does it mean if like there's if the Jedi are too powerful, is the Force going to balance it out by creating a greater evil that's going to kill a bunch of them, purge them? You know, and so does that mean that if the Jedi are too successful at destroying the Sith, that there's going to be some kind of a counterweight balance that's going to destroy them? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? The Force works in mysterious ways. But then we get this flashback, and so then they do this kind of Rashomon effect thing where we see Luke's point of view on the situation with Kylo Ren. And so we see Luke in the hut. Kylo's asleep, and then we just kind of see the hut collapse, and Luke kind of gets hurt but not killed, and then he digs his way out of the debris, and then everyone's dead. And so that's like the first perspective we get on what happened in that situation. Yeah, but it, you know, leaves a lot of questions to be asked, because it doesn't feel like it's the full idea of what happened. So back on Count Bite, Rose and Finn, they're in prison and they're trying to get out, but then they run into this dude DJ, and he's like, "Oh, I can break the code for you. I overheard what you were talking about, but you know, I'll do it for some money." They're like, "Dude, you can't help us," or whatever. And then he like, "Oh, are you sure?" And he like breaks his way out, and then he kind of leaves. So at first they're like, "Okay, we're not gonna get his help, but he did break us out, so we're gonna go somewhere else." He runs into BB-8. They run into these kids in a stable, and so then they let out these it's like Fathiers, something like that. It's like a horse dog. They're kind of
cute. It's very cute.
It's very cute, especially like the one, like when she shows up and she sees the horse dog, and it's got this sad look on his face, like, "Oh, they tortured me." It's very sad. It's like seeing your dog, you know, if it got turned into like a show animal or something. Yeah, it's very sad. And then she like lets him free, lets a bunch of them loose, and then it's like she's about to do that, and then this little child like is about to like basically call the police or whatever. And she has this ring that like has the symbol of the resistance on it, and he sees that and he's like, "Oh, okay," and he kind of lets them do their thing. So then we get this chase scene, and people hate this chase scene too.
Yeah, it's just kind of boring to me.
People hate this chase scene. Oh my god! But it's the reason is like you said, like this whole adventure is for two reasons. It exists for two reasons. We're gonna tell you the theme, and we're gonna make sure you understand that Finn and Rey will never be together. That's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they end up somewhere else. They end up, later on, they're gonna end up on the ship. But, it could have been done differently, but they wanted to, they shipped the Reylo. This is a Reylo ship movie. I mean, it is. I mean, there's no.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just hate that that's what it is.
Right. I mean, this is a straight up. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's pretty blatant.
Yeah, but apparently, maybe the abusive to your partner and potential love interest skips a generation, because I don't remember Luke ever being a piece of shit. Luke never had a love interest, so thankfully we never had to experience that. But maybe it skips a generation.
Yeah, because I mean,
hate that it just keeps pushing this be attracted to the piece of shit. Like, it's not.
I know.
It's sending such an awful message. Like, being treated horribly by someone that you have a crush on is perfectly fine.
Or like, oh, you can fix him, and she.
Oh yeah, or you can fix him. That whole you can fix him mentality.
She basically literally says that in this movie. We'll talk once we get there, but she basically says, "Oh no, I can fix him," and Luke literally says, "No, you can't fix him." And she's like, "No, I have to go to him right now."
No, he needs to be held accountable for the terrible things he does. He doesn't get a pass because he does one nice thing. That's not okay. And I hate that they're sending this message. It makes me seriously question both J.J. Abrams and fucking Rian Johnson. It's like, how do you treat your partners? Like, ugh.
Yeah. So yeah, and then DJ and BB-8, they hijack a ship, and so then they take that ship and they all fly away.
And I was so excited for Benicio del Toro again to be in a Star Wars movie. Stop wasting my favorite actors.
Oh, and he's like, he's pretty wasted in this, unfortunately. So, back on Octo, we see Luke reach out to Leia, and so he's kind of like getting back to the Force, and so like she's still in the coma, but then she like says Luke. See that happen?
I do like that. I like that they have that little connection.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like in Empire Strikes Back. Then so they're Force Skyping again. And this is so weird. This is where it's like super blatant, right? And so they Force Skype, and she's like talking to him, and she sees him. He's like not wearing a shirt, and he basically just worked out. He's like, "Do you have a towel or something? Can you put on a towel?" That's still kind of like fangirl shit, right?
That literally feels like it's pulled directly out of a fanfic.
Doesn't that feel like a fanfic? It feels like
it's literally from a fanfic, and it's so obvious. And just give credit to where that came from, because I'm sure that there's plenty of fanfics.
What's the name of that fanfic? Is that AO3 or something? Like that's like they freaking like scrolling AO3 like oh, I actually kind of like that. Like
but they didn't do M for mature. They did T for teen. So
wow.
Like there's a whole meme about AO3 where there's like, if it's gonna be like super mature, they have like, you click on the story and then it has like, oh, do you really want to proceed? And there's like this whole meme that says yes.
yeah.
And you can change it out for like who you're shipping and what it is in the show and stuff like that. But it's like a whole meme. It's hilarious because like yes.
Yeah. It's like That's
but no,
funny.
This was serious fan fiction.
This is exactly what, if you're shipping, like, you'd be ecstatic, like, oh yes, he's hot, you can fix him.
His personality and what he does makes him very unattractive to me.
Oh my god.
Adam Driver's very handsome. I don't find anything about Kylo Ren that is remotely interesting. What are you going to talk about? What would they have to talk about?
I mean, they would.
Do you remember the time you kidnapped me and used the Force to get inside my mind without my consent, and it was super painful and awful?
Yeah.
Remember that time you killed your dad in front of me?
and you dredged up all of my memories
Trauma?
about about being
my
abandoned on my home
abandonment
planet.
issues, and then used said abandonment issues against me by gaslighting
Yeah.
me.
I mean, but that's what the relationship's gonna be, right?
It's like,
I mean, to be fair, that's exactly what the relationship would be. He would find a bunch of stuff to like manipulate her into doing what he wants, which is killing people.
which is what they do. Which is what they do in this movie together.
Yeah.
They kill a whole bunch of people side by side, and then they're like panting, and it's super hot. And it's like, oh my god, we just wasted all of those guys.
They do kill a lot of people.
Yeah, you're so cute when you're murdering people.
When you put it that way, it really plays exactly into what he wants, right? This whole thing. He actually has a kill list, and I think
he uses her to kill his biggest threat.
He gets most of the kills on his kill list. He doesn't get his number like. Luke's probably his number one kill. His number one and number two.
I feel like it probably changes depending on who's in his general vicinity.
Yeah, exactly.
If Luke was standing right there, yes, that would be his number one. If Snoke's right there, that's his number one.
Yeah, he didn't take kindly to that negging in the beginning, so yeah, he was like.
Well, it's funny how people who are usually abused become abusers. Not all the time. I'm not saying that every time, but hurt people.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And that's all he does to Rey.
Yeah. So then she's like, you had a father that loved you. Why did you kill him? And, he's like, I forget if he even answered that question. I think he doesn't. But then he basically talks about like, his point of view of what happened with the situation with Luke. And so in his part of the Rashomon sequence, he sees Luke over him with the lightsaber ignited. And then Luke like attacks him. He defends himself, and then he does the other stuff. Now, here's the interesting thing. So like if someone attacked you, so like, let's say that you were at school and your teacher like tried to hit you and you defended them. Would you then kill your classmates?
No. Well, I mean, not to play devil's advocate, but maybe he did that because he was worried Luke would turn them against him and it wouldn't be as fair of a fight. Maybe, but no, I wouldn't murder my fellow students.
You think like a dark side user.
So I wouldn't do that personally. Just me though. But I actually don't mind that they have it from different points of view.
It's great.
Like, oh no, I didn't actually. And he's like keeping some shit close to the chest. And then I think what would have made it more powerful was that if Kylo was younger, if Kylo was actually like pre-teen age, I think that would have made it a lot more powerful.
If they cast like a different actor.
Yeah, like a child. I feel like it'd be. If Luke saw him as we see Kylo Ren as Adam Driver in his memory of it, and then but how Kylo sees it, it's like, no, I was a kid.
He sees himself as a child,
Yeah, I feel like that would have actually made it a lot more powerful, but I actually don't mind that. I mean, people remember things differently all the time from someone else who was also there. So I think it makes sense that they would both have a different point of view.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Obi-Wan was so fond of saying. So yeah.
And this is where he says, let the past die, kill it if you have to. And there's going to be some killing of the past in this movie.
Yeah, so you're telling your potential love interest that you want to kill people.
Yeah.
Super romantic.
That's the other thing too, is like I was listening to someone and they were talking about like, oh, my favorite tropes. Like, oh, I love when the two people like it was like, so this is the thing. People love enemies to lovers. I honestly believe that is the most popular trope when it comes to like different romantic tropes. I think it's legit, especially if they really, really hate, like the more they hate each other, the more people actually want to see them together. And so I think that's a part of it, but another part of it, where this person was saying, oh, I love when the enemies to lovers, they then kill their enemies when they come together. I thought that was funny. Because that's kind of what happens in this movie.
It's almost like there's a blueprint for what happens in this movie. It's crazy. Yeah, exactly.
So Rey goes into the hole, and then she finds this, like, she basically has like a, like similar to what happens with Luke when he goes into the cave in Empire. She's in this like hall of mirrors, and she's looking at all these mirrors, and there's infinite mirrors. And then there's like a voice over her talking to Kylo about what happened. And basically she gets at the end of this infinite mirrors, and then it's supposed to show her what she wanted to see, which is her parents. And instead, like, you see these figures of her parents, and then it turns into a reflection of herself. And so it's supposed to be, you know, there's always some esoteric kind of thing there where you have to kind of, you know, interpret the the experience in a way. I think she maybe handled it. Did she handle this better than Luke did in Empire? Do you think?
I mean, I feel like they both kind of come away pretty shook. I think Luke's far more shook than, because by that point, I mean, it's very similar. Neither of them know who their parents are, and they both see their parents in their visions. I mean, unbeknownst to Luke.
Yes.
But I think he's starting. I don't know. Luke might be a little bit dumb, because if I saw that in my vision where I like didn't know who my parents were, but then I cut open my enemy's face and it was mine, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
But again, I don't actually think he's dumb, but I'm just saying.
He's a little silly.
I
He's
think because it's, I don't really know. I don't really know how I feel about that scene. It's kind of neat. It's got some neat special effects in it. And I think they don't show her parents because they didn't know who her fucking parents were going to be at that point. I think they just didn't know.
Oh, there you
go. So they were just like, just make them shadowy figures or whoever. Yeah, whoever, like very nondescript, ghosty beings. It wasn't going to be Harry Potter looking into the mirror. So
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, it was very Harry Potter looking into the mirror.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
At least his fucking parents showed up.
They did. Yeah, you got to see him.
I mean, I guess she handled it, but I don't really actually. I honestly can't remember what she does after that scene. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I don't know how.
So after that scene, she's talking about this over Skype with Kylo, and you know they basically have a heart to heart, and he's, you know, then it becomes kind of romantic at this point.
And right, because they're in the hut and there's the fire and the shadows, and it's all very romantic.
Yeah,
again, girl, romantic. Why are you being vulnerable to this guy who's only going to use it against you?
And then they're gonna touch each other.
It's just like,
and so then they touch hands, and then Luke walks in on them, you know.
I love, because it's so like teeny weeny like tween shit, where like her scary uncle that she lives with because she's an orphan just like walks in and he's just like, what are you doing here? Like
on a certain level. So like, was it so 50 Shades of Grey started as a sexy fanfic of Twilight.
Yeah, I hate that I know
this honestly feels like a reskin of fanfic.
It really, really does. It hits all the marks. I've read a lot of fan fiction, and this hit every single nail in the coffin. Yeah.
So he's like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" And he uses the force to like blow up the thing.
He's so mad he blows something up.
Yeah, he blew it. Yeah.
Oh, that's very Skywalker of him.
And then they get into this little sparring match, and she's mad. She's like a spurned lover. Like, how dare you take me away from him?
We were gonna make out.
Yeah, he was gonna change. You don't understand.
No, he's not.
He's not evil. He's misunderstood, and I'm the only one who could fix him. They get into a match. They kind of fight, and then she's like, "Tell me the truth." And then so we see, like, I guess the truth basically. So he's like, "Oh, I sense the darkness in him, but what I found was worse than I imagined." So he kind of like reads his thoughts, and he's thinking about killing kids and stuff like that. You know, typical like teenage angsty stuff.
So instead of talking to him, I'm just gonna kill him.
Like, so the difference is in this, he doesn't actually like ignite his lightsaber; he just has it. And then Kylo gets his lightsaber and then basically attacks him. And then he also uses the force to collapse the hut. So that's the difference. So this pissed people off to no end. I mean, I read, there was an article the other day. So like he said, what's his name? Rian Johnson said like, oh yeah, I'm super proud of The Last Jedi even now, like despite all the stuff. I'm super proud of this film. People, took it as another opportunity to attack him and to dredge up more of the old, stuff. And yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense that he's proud of this film. He made a Star Wars film, and a lot of people like it.
You have a right to be proud of it,
yeah.
even if I don't like it and have huge criticisms of it. He has every right to be proud of his work.
Yeah, I forget where my train of thought went with that.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's kind of my fault. But like, yeah. So this moment really pissed me. And when just reading, people talking about this film, this is the part that gets the most people riled up, and like the thing that people disagree with the most, because the argument against this moment is that a lot of people think, well, if Luke didn't give up on Vader, why would he give up on Kylo and basically be there to kill him? And some people like and I totally see that argument. I probably agree with it more. I do kind of, I see what Rian Johnson was really going for. He wanted to like do something different with the character, and he wanted to like kind of push the boundary of what we could think of as Luke Skywalker, and not just like, because you could definitely see there be a version of this movie where we just basically do Empire Strikes Back again, right?
I mean, they're
totally the same.
Certainly, how I felt the movie was in a lot of ways. I mean, instead of like a cute little green tiny guy, you have who's very hopeful and pretty positive by Luke's appearance, and is very jovial and welcoming and hospitable. You have the complete polar opposite. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I get why he's trying to push the boundaries. I do agree way more with that sentiment of, why did he just give up so easily on Kylo? Like, was he just tired? Did he just not want to go through it again? Like, are you just lazy? Like, you don't want to have to try and save another kid or another person? Like, yeah, because he kind of just does give up on him. Like, yeah, if you're sensing why don't you get his parents to come and talk to him? Maybe being separated from his mom is like hurting him, and he's having like really disturbing thoughts because he has a lineage of family members who have really disturbing thoughts sometimes. And it's just, I don't know. Yeah. It's just kind of like, just give up on him and try and murder him. And
get confirmation, then go for the kill.
Yeah, exactly. Or you could just talk to him and say, hey, buddy. So I know I shouldn't have read your diary, but
I mean, you don't even have to say that. You just have to say like, hey, like, I've been sensing that you're kind of like in a bad place. I know you've been listening to a lot of Linkin Park and like Nine Inch Nails, and I'm just like, I know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying like, like, thinking to have your mom and dad come by, like maybe we could all talk, and like
maybe you could go on vacation. You've been working really, really hard. I know you've been devoting your entire childhood to being a Jedi, and that's pretty intense. Maybe you need to go and, I don't know, go skiing on Hoth or some shit like that. I don't know, just like, take a break. It's almost like taking children away from their parents and making them and telling them that they are the future of something great and that they have a higher power and abilities of a higher power. Some shit is just doesn't work.
Yeah. So,
which actually explains why he's just like, the Jedi should die, because their techniques suck.
Yeah. But it's just kind of strange that he wouldn't try to change them and make them better. He just gave up. But that this is the part that people have the most problem with, and I can't say that I think they're wrong, and I think that the other thing too that makes it kind of funny, I bet you on a certain level Mark Hamill kind of agrees with that.
Maybe.
I mean, it is what it is, right? And so I think the intention was like they just found it more interesting to make Luke really conflicted. To make him that conflicted. And to be honest, like there are things that he did in the original trilogy. Like there are times where he disobeyed, you know, and there are times when he was kind of rash and kind of like impulsive. Yoda tells him, don't go to Cloud City. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. Bad things are going to happen. He's like, nope, I'm going. He does that anyway. And he gets his hand chopped off.
Yeah, and he got his hand chopped off because he went in there cocksure and
was not prepared. The thing too, like, it took me a while to realize it, but like he tries to commit suicide on Bespin. Like he tries to commit suicide. The movie cops it out, but he like when he jumps, that's a suicide attempt. He'd rather die than.
Oh, I always figured that was him trying to kill himself. Yeah. I always figured that. Because it is like, oh no, I'd rather die than join the dark side.
The movie plays it so whimsically that it kind of like you kind of don't think of it that way, but that's a suicide attempt. When he jumps, he's gonna die.
Yeah, I always kind of figured that because it's like, yeah, it seems pretty. It's and it's just one way to hurt him. Like, oh, if I really am your kid, I'm also gonna just jump.
Yeah, and he has a really. Like Vader, like has a really interesting reaction. He's like, "Oh fuck, he's dead."
He's like, "Oh, he did it." Okay,
yeah, exactly.
There is another.
But he like the body language is very like sad.
I think he's surprised.
Yeah,
I didn't think he'd actually do it. I think Vader's kind
of
like,
he was gonna come to him and he was gonna then they were gonna kill the Emperor. They were gonna kill the Emperor, and then they were gonna take over.
I know. I love how sure Vader is during that whole scene. Okay, I gotta explain my whole plan in a very short period of time because I can tell you're tiptoeing on the edge. So I'm your dad. We can rule the galaxy as father and son and destroy the Emperor. What do you say, Junior? Yeah. And Luke is he's lost his hand and he's just like,
yeah. What? He's like, what the fuck? No.
Like, yeah, I'm peacing out. Bye.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, there's this comic where they show like basically there's a comic where Vader learns that Luke is his son from Boba Fett. Like he basically sends Boba Fett out like, oh, I need you to get some information about this guy, and he's like, oh yeah, so his name is Luke Skywalker or whatever, and he's like, what? Like, yeah, it's Luke Skywalker, and so then he like freaks out. But I feel like basically like. The thing in my mind that happens is like, so at first he's like mad. He's like, oh, this is my son. They hid him from me. But then he has the power fantasy, where he's like, oh, but he's my son. So we could kill the Emperor and we could take over. And then he starts having the like, he sees, instead of like that scene in Rogue One, now it's the two of them together killing rebels. Like he has all these weird power fantasies and then it's the two of them. And there's like, an army of stormtroopers. And he's like, oh, this is what I want. And I can't let anyone know it, but this is my plan.
This is my ultimate goal.
This is my ultimate goal is to turn him, and then we kill the Emperor, and then we together rule the galaxy. And then I'll be the father to him that I never had. That's the real, that's
father fantasy. I'm gonna take him out to play ball.
Yeah, yeah. He's like has his fans showing him the Force and showing him the dark side, and it's like they're. Do you ever see there was this really funny? They did a children's book. It's like my dad Vader or something like that.
No, I've never seen that.
Oh, it's really funny. It's really because it's like a little like a very child Luke. It's all cartoons, and yeah, and when it's him with Vader and like Luke is doing it, and it's also with Leia too. I think it's like they did one for Leia and one for Luke, and then they did one where it's like the two of them. It's really funny. It's really funny. Anyway, so yeah, we see that, and then Rey immediately is like, "No, Kylo's good, and I need to go save him right now." Like that immediately happens after that, and and Luke's like, "No, do not do that. That is a bad idea. You have no idea. This dude is evil." He's like, "No, he's good." Blah blah, and she runs off. So then Yoda shows up, the Force Ghost of Yoda, the puppet Yoda too, not the CGI Yoda. You get the puppet, And so he's talking, and he's kind of like, doing the Yoda thing, giving him some wisdom. And then like Luke's like, no, it all needs to be destroyed. And then so he's like, I'd burn it if I could. There's like this little tree where all the sacred texts are. So then the ghost Yoda summons a lightning bolt to burn the tree, which is really funny.
I love Luke's reaction. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's like, they don't matter. He's like, wisdom they held, but they contain nothing the girl Rey does not already possess, which is funny because that's like it has a double meaning. Because as we'll see later in the movie, she took the texts on the Falcon. So she does possess the knowledge, and she possesses the texts.
Oh, Yoda and your double meanings, you little scamp.
Yeah. So then comes the other and this is like this movie has some really good shit in it. Yoda says the greatest teacher is failure, and they are what we grow beyond. That is the true burden of all masters. And so again, like the whole idea is like these new characters are going to grow beyond what the old movies were, and which isn't to say that they're going to be better. It's just we're moving on. We have to move on. We have to let the past die. I guess that was the idea of at the time. I mean, it didn't happen, but that like this film has a real philosophy, and it has a real like ideology it's trying to put forth. And there's stuff there. People did not like it.
So people don't like change.
Yeah, change is hard. So the Rose and in the Rose and Finn storyline, so the dude DJ like extorts Rose for her little gold necklace thing. It's like, oh, I need a deposit. I need some money from you guys. And then they also double down on this whole thing about the rich people are selling weapons to people and getting. That's all they care about. Because like basically they say like, oh, the person who owned this ship, they sold weapons to both sides. They sold weapons to the First Order, and they sold weapons to the Republic, the Resistance.
Yeah, he seems to be kind of the realist of the situation.
Yeah, he just wants to get paid. He's like the Han. He's like evil Han.
Yeah, I think he could have been good Han. I don't know why there was this double crossing.
Yeah, I know.
But
I know.
He's definitely more of like, nobody's good in this, right? You know that, right? Like, you're fighting for like the good people, but they also bought weapons. Who do you think is supplying them with ships and money and weapons and stuff like that? Do you think they're just giving? You think it's just all donations to the Rebel Alliance? Donate here at my .org. Like, here's my GoFundMe. Like, it's
resistance.org.
He's been around for a while, and he's way more of a realist.
Yeah. So the fleet is in trouble. They lost all their support ships. Poe figures out that Holdo's plan is to load all the crew into shuttles and then abandon ship. And this is it for Poe. Like, he's done with it. He doesn't like it. So he basically does a mutiny against her.
So, like, we don't have time for this. I think that's what bugs me so much about Poe being a dope in this movie. It's like, we do not have time for this.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
We don't have time for you to be an idiot and try and do a mutiny, which you fail epically at because you're a dope. And it's just, it's so annoying. Like, the runtime in this movie is already really long, but again, with this whole thing, I was like, I had no patience for any of this. I was like, first of all, if your fleet is like 5 ships and it's really that weak, if I was the Empire, I just would have sent some TIE fighters out there and like just fucked them up. Easy. Kill them. Why are we prolonging this? You've put them in this larger than life dire situation, but nobody can touch them? Like, it just seemed very it was so annoying to me. It was just like,
Yeah.
Ugh, sorry.
So, and then the other fun part is that Rey lands in her shuttle on the Dreadnought, and Kylo is there to greet her. And then they get in this elevator, and they listen to some Linkin Park. It's like, can you turn off the Linkin Park? I just want to talk to you real quick. And he's like, I know that there's good in you. I know that you're going to turn. It's like, no, you're wrong.
Which again is just like Return of the Jedi when they're having that conversation on like when they're going up to the Death Star, and he's like, oh, there's
just straight up Return of the Jedi.
It's just straight up Return of the Jedi, and I'm
like almost
why?
all of it.
You know what? I can see why Luke gave up on you. You suck.
So they go to the throne room. Now, I will say this whole sequence is very aesthetically pleasing. The colors are
it's
cool.
very pretty. It's very cool. It's very
pretty.
Cool.
Very well done. I mean, the level of technical competence in this film is extremely high.
Oh yeah, the editing's really good. Yeah. The special effects are on point. The costumes are great. The purple hair is one of my favorites now.
Yeah, I mean, she's hot. She looks really
it matches
good.
her outfit. I think it was just something to match her outfit, honestly.
Yeah,
I think it was purely a costume and makeup choice, but whatever.
Totally
no, aesthetically, the movie is very pleasing.
Mm-hmm. And what's cool about this is like, so there's a Praetorian Guard there, and they wear this all red, kind of like, almost Teutonic kind of armor. Very cool. And we've seen them before. We've seen them in, I think Jedi is the first time we see them, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah. And, you know, like basically there's always been questions about like, what do they do? Like how can they stop a Jedi? That question is going to get answered in this movie. So Finn, Rose, and DJ, they kind of put their plan into action, but then they get captured by Phasma. Leia wakes. So the, you know, Poe and a bunch of people, they do this mutiny and they basically succeed. They take over the ship, but then like Leia busts through the door and she then stuns Poe, ending the mutiny.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. And then the escape pods evacuate, and she's like, "Hey, so you idiot! The plan was that Holdo is going to stay on the ship and basically die. We're all going to escape, and we know that they're tracking one ship, so they're not going to see our escape pods leaving."
Yeah, you're kind of stepping on her moment, by the way, dude.
Yeah, and so you should have just like listened. It's our job to have a plan, and it's your job to blow up stuff when we tell you to.
Yeah, we make the plan, you execute that plan, which you're normally really good at. When you try to make plans, you are terrible.
You're really bad. Yeah.
You are so bad.
Yeah. So Snoke's like, "Oh, I put your minds together. I knew that you were too weak and that Kylo was conflicted, blah, blah, blah. And now he's going to do what he needs to do. He's going to," what did he say? He says like, "I see him turning his saber to strike the true, ignited, and kill his true enemy," and then he kills. I mean, it is nice to see this arrogant fucking idiot get killed. Yeah.
Wrong about
I'm killing my enemy. I'm killing my enemy.
What, you just didn't see who the enemy was, you dumb fuck?
Yeah.
You just didn't see who the target was? You've been so cruel and abusive to this poor guy.
You can only kick the dog so long before the dog bites you.
I will say, like, even the Emperor had a level of, while being slightly condescending, a level of respect for Darth Vader. He would let him go and do his own thing, do his missions, let him hang out on, I almost said Stovacor, but that's totally wrong.
Stovacor?
Stovacor is the Klingon heaven, basically. Yeah. It's like Valhalla. What is it called?
You're thinking of Mustafar.
Mustafar, not Stovacor. He lets him hang out on Mustafar, does his own thing. There's a level of like mutual respect, at least. With Snoke, he's just a turd.
Yeah. He's a piece of shit. I think the thing with Palpatine was that he was kind of it was more plotting and like, you know, what he would do is he would send Vader on a mission that was difficult. And like, "Oh, you survived, Master Vader. How is it?" You know, that's what he would do. He would try to get him killed, basically, but he wouldn't overtly kind of like, you know, kick him while he's down.
No, he never told him like, "Oh, you weak little bitch," like you poser, you know, kind of a thing. Like he at least like knew that Vader could get the job done. Like he had some confidence in him at least, while being obviously manipulative and awful. But I'm just saying, he didn't. He was not the same dickish turd. Yeah,
exactly. And there were some I saw someone talking about there's some comics. Their relationship is weird.
Oh, I'm sure.
The Snoke, it is really weird. Like Snoke got into him when he was like a preteen.
Yeah, it's called grooming, I think.
He did groom him, and it makes it pretty apparent that he groomed him. So yeah, he kills him. He kills the groomer. And then they fight the Praetorian Guard together.
This fight scene was really good. Very well choreographed.
Really good, yeah. Yeah, it looks really, really good. And it's really cool to see. Like, this is one of those things that we've always wanted to see. Is like, what does a Praetorian Guard do? Like, why are they there? Are they actually effective against Jedi? And we see that they're very effective. They have these weapons that are resistant to lightsabers, and it's all kinds of stuff. Like, one guy has, again, it's all these medieval kind of stuff. Like, I don't know what you call it, but it's like basically it's like a sword weapon, but it's like chained so it can wrap around a sword and kind of.
Yeah, I don't know what that's called, but I do like that. That's actually gaining, I feel like, in popularity as far as like a weapon in a movie can kind of go. I think a couple of them have like lances and some cool shit. Yeah, very medieval.
Daggers, yeah, it's very medieval. It's very cool, but they fight them off and they kill them all. So yeah, it's very impressive. And then she's like, "Oh, Ben, you have to help me. We have to destroy the fleet. We have to save the rebels." He's like, "No, like."
He's like, "That's actually not what my plan was at all.
It's time to let the past die. I want you to join me.
She's like, "Oh, fuck, God.
We can rule together." Yeah, she's like, "Oh shit, this again." It's like, "No, I thought I could fix you. I thought I could change you. I thought you were gonna change."
He's like, "Hey, you can't fix what's already broke, bitch."
Yeah, exactly.
Let's make out.
And it's like, he's like, "You know the truth about your parents. Say it. They were nobody. They were filthy junk traders. They sold you off for drinking money. They died in a pauper's grave."
He's such a dick.
You know, the thing I really remember is like, he says, "You come from nothing. You are nothing." And I remember when he said "you are nothing," like people said, "Oh," like there was a reaction in the crowd. I remember that.
Yeah, because it's a horrible thing to say to someone.
Oh, he's using the abuser techniques on her.
It's like, you are nothing without me. I am the only reason you even got to this point.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Me. I am so important.
Yeah.
I
he says, but not to me. You're nothing. You're trash. You're nobody. But, I think it says like you're no one in the story or something like that. And he says, "Oh, but not to me. I."
But not to me. That is.
Yeah. I mean, he's an abuser.
You are trash. You came from nothing. They died in a pauper's grave. They abandoned you. You have no.
They sold you for drinking money.
You are nothing. They sold you for drinking money, but not to me.
That's why we need to kill people together.
Oh my God, it's so disgusting. It's so
that's
awful.
Like that's the only way that you'll have meaning in your life is if you come with me and you kill people.
I will say, this is not a defense. This is not anything like that. I will say I wanted Rey to come from nothing. I wanted Rey to be nobody. I wanted her to just be Rey from Jakku and forge her own path and her own destiny. And we'll talk about that more in the next movie. But I wanted her to use all of that horrible shit he said to her and all of that terrible garbage that he threw at her. And I wanted her to use it to be like, "I'm not no one. I'm Rey from Jakku. And I'm going to kick the shit out of you. Yeah. And I'm going to
kill you.
Badass lady of the universe and forge my own path." Like, that's what I wanted. But, because because at one point the Skywalkers were nothing too. Just saying. Like,
just a farm boy.
Yeah, he was just a farm boy. He was just, Anakin was just a slave on Tatooine. And the reason why it's so, like, I'm not saying, like, the prequels are cool, but what makes it have meaning is that he came from nothing. He came from nothing. If we're supposed to believe the mythos around Anakin Skywalker, he literally appeared.
He just appeared in his mom's stomach.
It was a miraculous conception, and boom, okay. Like, so I think it would have just been, like, if you're going to let the past die, and I guess this is more of a criticism to J.J. Abrams than Rian Johnson, but if you are going to just let the past die, then let the Skywalker die. Let them just cease, because they're not doing a very good job of doing anything. So, yeah. So,
on the Dreadnought, Rose and Finn get betrayed by DJ for money, and he also gives us some info to the First Order about how to destroy the Resistance, and so they start shooting their ships down. So it was real bad, and so he takes the money, and Rose and Finn are going to be executed. But just as that's about to happen, the ships are being destroyed, and Holdo decides to do something drastic. She turns around the ship. She points at the dreadnought. She prepares to go into light speed. And she light speed rams through this fleet.
Actually, this is a really good special effect. This was really, really good.
It's very beautiful. Cool. So, if I was going to say the thing that gets the most hate, number one is that moment where Luke decides he's going to kill Kylo. People hate that. This is number two. And it's been called the Holdo maneuver. People hate this. People hate this. So what are your thoughts on the Holdo maneuver? Do you think it's cool? Do you think it's like whatever? Do you think it's like breaks canon?
What kind of canon would it be breaking?
So what people wonder is if you can do this like ramming, light speed ramming technique, why wouldn't this be done more? Why wouldn't we create a missile that can go into light speed and then, ram something and blow it up?
Again, I think people need to remember they're watching a space opera and the science has never been explained. The most science explanation we get is about the Death Star, as far as I can remember, and some midi-chlorian shit. And I think y'all just need to calm the fuck down. It's not that deep. And I think if people did it more, we'd have more people committing suicide, which I don't think we want. It just doesn't. It's a last ditch effort. Like that's what it is. If it's a last ditch. This is the only weapon we have, is a giant ship, and I'm gonna be heroic and ram it into the Imperial fleet. Like this is a desperate maneuver. This is desperation at its finest. They have nothing left. They have no more cards to play. That is it. It's not that deep. That's it.
So I think that this is one that to me falls under the rule of cool. Like this is like the quintessential classic rule of cool. Don't think about the logic. It looked really nice.
It just is what it is.
Right?
Why are we suddenly caring about the science in Star Wars?
Yeah.
Why do you suddenly care so much?
The science doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's never worked. Most of a lot of the science in Star Trek is all theoretical or is completely made up. It's fantasy. It's science fiction fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's a space opera taking place in a galaxy far, far away. It doesn't have to make sense. It literally has no obligation to make sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At all.
I mean, I don't disagree with people, but I think that it's just misplaced. There's so many things in Star Wars that don't make sense. So many things. Like I said, the Death Star. You don't have a bunch of lasers go to a fulcrum point and then fire into
another laser.
It doesn't work. And that's the first movie. Yeah. And so we're already in the fantastical realm. It's all fantasy.
Yeah,
it's all fantasy.
It's just fantasy. It doesn't have to make. Are we going to start questioning how The Witcher performs magic next? It's literally fantasy. None of it. It's under no obligation to make sense to you. It just is what it is, and it's not that deep. We should make a T-shirt of the explosion and say it's not that deep. It's literally a last ditch, desperate maneuver by someone who's the only person who could pilot it. That's it.
Yeah, and it looked really cool.
Really cool. I mean, it sucks that she was just there to die. Like, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that her character was literally just there to die.
She was there to piss off Poe, piss off the audience, and then die.
That's what
no, they're not mad about her dying.
Like, it's so ridiculous. It's just, you can dislike the character because she doesn't do anything, but the one thing that she does do, she does pretty freaking well.
Yeah. So yeah, that happened, and then this causes a bunch of cascading stuff, and like also meanwhile, so like Rey and Kylo were fighting over Anakin's lightsaber, and then they it breaks in half, it gets destroyed. Again, speaking of letting the past die, like they literally destroy that lightsaber, which then comes back in the third movie. So by the way, the other thing that really like, I don't know, I just feel a certain way about it is like, they make a very big point that in Return of the Jedi, Luke builds a new saber that's green.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like a big deal. It's almost like him maturing and coming of age and being his own
I always
person.
thought it was some kind of rite of passage that a Jedi should eventually one day build their own lightsaber.
And like there's even a scene where like Vader looks at it and he's like, "Oh,
you've constructed your own lightsaber."
It's like a big deal. But we just like throw that away and we're fighting over this other lightsaber. It's like, what the fuck?
I'm not sure why they place so much importance other than maybe it just being a piece of history.
Yeah. And we never ever get an explanation as to why they even have it in the first place. Like when he gets his hand chopped off, that's it. It's gone. It is gone. But then somehow it gets brought back into this franchise. I don't know. That's always been a pet peeve of mine. But that also pissed people off. So yeah, and the whole maneuver saves Rose and Finn, and so like basically everyone who was going to execute him got killed, other than Phasma. And so Finn fights Phasma, Finn kills Phasma, Phasma dies. We never see her again. There's your toy. That's another toy gone. BB-8 takes over ATST, and then they escape. We get this funny scene. So like Hux goes into the throne room. He finds Kylo on the ground, and he's like about to shoot him. He's like pulling out his gun, and Kylo wakes up, and he's like kind of puts his gun away.
I like that he knows he can't take him if he's awake. He's like, I know what my limits are.
It's like, I was like,
he was going to do it though. I think he would have done it. I think he definitely would have done it.
Yeah, would have killed him because he'd be the Supreme Leader.
Yep.
So at first he's like trying to like, the Supreme Leader's dead. Like there's no one to take over. And he's like, bro, shut up. I'm the Supreme Leader. Mm-hmm. So he takes over. Rose and Finn get back to the Resistance on this other planet. That's like, it's basically Hoth, except it's salt. And when you no, I'm serious. And then the salt turns red, which is cool. It looks really cool. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Hoth. Let's be honest about it.
It's salty Hoth.
Yeah. So they barricade themselves in this mountain by this like kind of barricade. But they have this cannon, like the First Order has a cannon, which is Finn says something about it's like built with the Death Star tech. So basically it's gonna blow through their it's gonna blow through the barricade and they're gonna get killed. So they send off all these fighters to go and destroy the barricade. And again, we get this scene that's really cool. There are people in these trenches, again, very much like Hoth, and they're on these little, I don't know what you call these ships that they're in, but the tail kind of drags on the ground, so it kind of kicks up the salt, and underneath you see this red stuff. I don't know what the red stuff is, but it looked cool. That's why they did it. So then they're fighting and they're trying to take out this thing. And so what we see is that Poe kind of gets the idea. Like he finally learns, like, oh, it's about protecting people, not about just winning the battle. If everyone's dead, it doesn't matter. Finn didn't get that message yet. So he's going to kamikaze himself into the weapon. Rose takes him out, saves him at the last minute. And Finn's like, why'd you do that? I don't understand. And he's like,
and now we're stuck out here.
Yeah. And she's like, we don't win by fighting what we hate, but by saving what we love. And then she kisses him. It was kind of nice.
It's just nice they didn't do anything with it. So.
Oh, she gets friend zoned. like she gets straight up friend zoned.
They don't even friend zone her. They just don't do anything.
Yeah.
It's just nothing. Absolutely. Yeah. Completely.
So then Luke arrives. So Luke's there.
Dun, dun, dun.
He has a conversation with Leia, and he like gives her a kiss. By the way, Leia is wearing, I don't know what Leia's wearing. I don't know what you call that, but it's hella cool. There's this one shot of her at the beginning of the sequence where she's like standing outside of the barrier, and I don't know what you call it, but it's like a half. What do they call
veil?
That? No. So what's the thing like where you have like something goes around your neck and it's like
a collar?
Yeah, it's kind of like a collar. But anyway, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
Looks really cool. She looks really cool. So, he gives her a kiss. He goes out there to face the First Order. And then Kylo's like, okay, shoot him, like, and kill him. So they all fire on him. He's like, more! It's turned into a meme, which is cool. dust settles, he's not dead, and he just kind of like literally wipes the dirt off his shoulder. And then Kylo faces him one-on-one. And then Poe's like, oh wait, I think he's trying to create a distraction. I think we need to leave and run. I don't think he's
finally figured it out, bro.
Yeah, exactly. He's getting it. So they try to escape, and so they see the little ice critters, like the salt critters, like run through this little place in the back. And so they go there, they follow them, but they're kind of stuck. So there's all these rocks. And I should mention that in this battle, Chewie and Rey show up in the Falcon, and they're like fighting and helping him out. And another thing that pissed people off that became a meme was like Rey gets off a triple shot in this battle, and that was another thing that pissed people off. And then it went into the that's another Mary Sue conversation debate that's toxic. So anyway, so then they the Falcon's on the other side of this wall of rocks, and then later Rey uses the Force to like get all the Resistance fighters onto the Falcon. Meanwhile, so Kylo and Luke are like kind of fighting, and so Luke's doing all this cool stuff, and Kylo's really pissed off. Finally, he like strikes Luke and kind of gets a blow on him, and then he realizes, oh, he's not really here.
I did like this. It was like a little switcheroo almost.
Yeah, it was a switcheroo, and then he like puts his sword through him, and he's like, oh shit, this is just an illusion. He's like, see you around, kid, and then he disappears. Yeah, and then yeah, exactly.
I think I like it because it just shows how like when Luke does get in touch with the Force, he is extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. I like how he just doesn't take Kylo seriously at all.
Yeah, and this scene is really well done too, because like when you watch it again, you realize there's all these kind of takeaways, like these things that kind of give it away. Like Kylo, whenever he steps, he kicks up some dirt. Luke never does. Mm-hmm. Luke looks totally different. Luke has his blue lightsaber. All of these things kind of are giveaways that it's a projection, or something is off, or something's different, but you kind of don't notice it at first. And then we see Luke on Ahch-To watching the sun's setting, and then he dies. Fades into the Force, and he dies.
Good. I hope he has some fucking peace finally.
So, how did you feel about him dying this way?
I hope he has some fucking peace finally. Like, I hope he just finally fades off into the great beyond and just takes a fucking nap.
Yeah.
Does not look like a man who has taken a nap, who has not pampered himself. He needs to go treat himself and whatever the Force heaven is. Go treat yourself. Go converse with your dad, because you guys haven't had a conversation probably in a while.
Yeah.
Go visit your dad.
Yeah.
Go say hi to Han, because I bet he's pretty pissed. Nobody felt bad that he was dead. So except Chewie.
So we'll see Han again.
So
this is great. So someone asked, they asked Harrison Ford, like, is Han a Force ghost? And he said, "What the fuck is a Force ghost?" I thought that was really funny.
He's not as invested as in the mythos as you guys want him to be. He's just a person, believe it or not.
I know.
Beyond Star Wars.
He's not into all this lore and shit.
Oh, he doesn't have time for that shit. Who cares? Like, it doesn't affect him.
So yeah, I would say I was a little disappointed by it, but it is what it is. It was one way to go. I definitely think a lot of people were unsatisfied. Yeah. So then the film the film ends, and Kylo's sort of still looking for Rey, but they still have that connection. And then we see these like the little stable boys and girls who were at Canto Bight. Yeah, and they're talking about Luke and what happened. And then their scumbag boss is like, "Oh, what are you doing? Go back to work." And we see the little boy like use the Force to grab a broom. Mm-hmm. That's it.
That might be my favorite scene, honestly. It gives me a lot of Return of the Jedi vibes of like when C-3PO is telling the story to the Ewoks. He's basically catching them up on the first two movies and all the events leading up to that moment. And it's just like, it's very similar. They're little kids, they got their it reminds you like why, like how precious this franchise is to a lot of people. You know, we have the toys and we have the mythos and we have the this and the that, and we all want to like look at that broomstick and be like, nah, I can't actually do it. But like, and then this kid does, and it's hopeful. Plus, it just goes to again, like anybody can be force sensitive. There's still plenty of force sensitive kids out there, you know, who need guidance. Maybe not being kidnapped or anything like that, but they need guidance of some kind.
And really, it kind of gives us a sense that the force is working, and that there is a way that it works to create balance.
Yeah.
Because there is going to be force sensitive people who are out there, and they're going to want to do good. And this kid, you know, likes the resistance. He has a little ring that has the resistance logo on it, and he's going to grow up to fight the resistance. And you know, and that's kind of, I feel like, what the takeaway of this is. Like, yeah, the past is dead, but there's a future that's coming, and it's new, but it's going to, you know, restore order and good and to the galaxy. So I guess the question I have is, do you feel like this is a good film, a bad film, in between? What are your feelings?
I think it's fairly mediocre, honestly. I think it's a fairly mediocre movie.
What are the things you really just don't like about it?
I hate the Reylo stuff. I think that's pretty obvious. Didn't like a lot of the stuff I didn't like anything with Poe. Everything with Poe was such a waste of time. I didn't like the subplot of Rose and Finn's little side adventure.
The side quest.
The side quest I thought was super boring. I liked everything with Luke on Octo. It wasn't the Luke I wanted at all, but I don't hate it. Growth has to happen, and sometimes growth is really not fun, and sometimes there's regression, and that's also not fun. It's all about being an adult. But other than that, it's not my favorite Star Wars movie. But I don't. If you like it, then like it. That's fine. I'm not going to shit on you for liking it.
Yeah,
Please
I mean,
don't shit on me for disliking it.
Right, exactly. I think I was never like angry about this film. I was definitely disappointed. I was definitely disappointed in the way that they handled Luke. I think it's very difficult to balance Luke Skywalker with what they're trying to do with these films, and it's there's just no two ways about it. Like, he's just too much of a powerful character to balance him with new characters. And so they probably felt the need to do something like this, which is sort of disappointing, but it's understandable. I mean, I'm not going to let a film... I'm too old for like getting obsessed and letting a film ruin my life. I'm just going to move on.
Yeah, I don't have time for that. Like, I don't have time to just hate watch a whole bunch of stuff. Like, sometimes I do, and I just try to have fun with it, honestly. I'm not going to let it anger me. Like, my first initial reaction to this movie was pretty fucking angry, but that was also, like, 5 years ago or something like that, and I just don't care anymore. I'm a very different person to who I was 5 years ago. I just don't care that much. It's just entertainment. It's just, that's all it is at the end of the day. It's entertainment. And we're the ones who project the mythos and the fandom onto it. I'm not saying Disney doesn't like lean into that. In fact, I think it jumps head first. Yeah. But
I think you had every right to be angry too. That was your feeling and you let it out there. I'm sure there's a video where you talk about it.
There is a video.
I'd love to watch
audio.
that again.
It was such a hot day when I filmed it, so I had my fan on like full blast. And I had
so it's like you hear some interference.
Terrible.
But it's just like there's. I'm sure we've seen tons of films where we're like, oh, I'm really either excited or anticipating, or you just thought it would be good and then it's terrible, and then you just feel like, wow, that really sucked.
It's like, that's what growth is.
It happens all the time. Like that happens all the time in art, all kinds of things in life.
Because everything has like a phase when something's popular or something like that. I think Star Wars is very popular right now, and I don't think it will be in another 10 years. I don't think it's going to be as popular now. It's not. I don't think these movies will stand the same test of time as the original movies. Yeah,
well, I think that they all kind of have the same growth curve. Like, listen, if there are people who today defend the prequels,
I was thinking that, yeah, I
Like,
think these movies
if-
might have
listen,
a renaissance of some kind.
if you defend the prequel, I think that these films are very defensible in comparison to the prequels. They look really nice. The acting's really great. There's not a lot of wooden shit because
the
you
acting
know,
is far superior. The acting is so
Oh
much
my
better
God.
than it was.
like there's a
Like-
lot to defend. I mean, this movie, if you're not like the thing about, you know, I think like we both probably have a similar relationship to Star Wars, which is that we're born at a time where we saw the original films before the prequels came out. So we had this sort of aesthetic feeling and understanding and almost, you know, like a love for the old films,
Yeah.
but also saw the new films at a time where we hated them, basically. So
But
it's
yeah,
like,
I mean,
yeah. Basically, what I'm saying is there are people who they're going to see all of it together, or they're going to have seen these new films when they came out when they were young. They have a totally different relationship to these films than people of different generations do. For them, this is Star Wars.
yeah.
This is Star Wars, and there's nothing else. And it's like, yeah, I like this stuff, you know, with these older characters, but this is Star Wars, you know.
it's
And I
the
want to
same
see
with-
it keep going.
It's the same with Star Trek. You know, people who were probably my age when Star Trek 2009 came out and had never seen Next Gen, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, TOS, that was their Star Trek. And that's fine.
Exactly,
I don't
yeah.
care. I don't care
Yeah.
if that's what your Star Trek is, and if that is the material that you choose to indulge in. I think that's totally fine. You know, it sounds like there's someone has a wood chipper going. Sorry. And for a lot of people, these movies will be their Star Wars, and I think that's totally fine. You have every right to enjoy it. I'm just glad people are enjoying it and discovering it. That's how I feel about Star Trek. I'm so glad I'm seeing so many people that I've followed or, you know, liked for a while being like, yeah, you know, I the new Star Trek's actually really good or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Picard season 3.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So excited. I uploaded my reaction to that today.
Oh, great.
But yeah, it's very
Excellent.
short. It's very short.
Okay.
I've
heard very good things about it. Like, we sort of talked about this before, but I've heard very good things about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. You know, it has all my my faves in it. You know, my next gen bays. I love them. I love Next Gen. But yeah, I think we are very fortunate to have grown up in a time when there was nothing after Return of the Jedi. Like, that was it. Return of the Jedi was it. That's like, you had your first 3 movies and then that was it. That was all you had. Or if you were like my brothers, they would read some of the expanded universe stuff, and I would hear little bits and pieces. I was too young to read any of that, though. I wouldn't have retained any of it. I wouldn't have understood any of it.
Yeah. Also, the thing too is, like, it was on home video.
Yeah, home video.
That was a time when it was not available other than in theaters.
Yep.
That was it.
Yeah, so I think we have a particular kind of perspective to all of this. Or even just my parents who have a different perspective, who saw it on a date. They saw New Hope on a date. Like, that's something that I'll never understand how that felt. You know what I mean? Seeing A New Hope. Oh yeah, it's just this little, you know, sci-fi movie that came out. We're gonna go, like, check it out, kind of a thing. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
No, I think you know, these films, they're gonna have their defenders. Listen, if people defended those prequels, and I mean, there are a legion of prequel defenders now. There are definitely going to be people who in 10 years are like, oh yeah, I love the sequel trilogy. You know, definitely going to happen.
Yeah, I definitely see it happening.
Yeah.
Again, if it can be done for the prequels, which are trash in my opinion,
they're not going to have the same relationship to the film. They don't have the same relationship to, like, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. They're just like, oh, Han Solo died. You know, like, that's literally like he died. You know, for other people, it's like, he fucking died. Like,
exactly,
some strong feelings about it.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, that was our discussion of The Last Jedi. Very controversial film, unfortunately.
Oh, just wait until next time, people.
Oof. Oof. Ugh. So we will talk about next the rise of Skywalker, and that will be it for our discussion of Star Wars films. We've talked about every single one up to date, and one last thing I'll kind of talk about is like they recently said that D23 is happening like today or whatever. There's all these announcements. They said they will not be announcing a new Star Wars film, from what I heard, what I read, which basically tells me that they have absolutely no idea what to do to continue this franchise in the cinema. It's dead. It's dead. Died. In 2019 it died. And it'll come back at some point, but we don't know when. So
I give it a few years. I think they're going to try and focus on their streaming shows for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Try and milk that for as much as they can. And then maybe eventually, we might have like a Mandalorian movie. We might actually get a Kenobi movie or something like that. But who knows? I think they're just going to focus on the streaming shows for a while.
Yeah.
I think Rise of Skywalker. I think the reaction from that scared the shit out of some people.
Well, yeah, it did. It really did. Because if they have another Rise of Skywalker situation, like I don't know if you can ever really kill Star Wars, but they would be maiming it. I mean, that would be like a dismemberment. It would not be good, especially after Solo and Rise of Skywalker. It's just they're asking for trouble. So anyway, that was our discussion of The Last Jedi. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care, and may the Force be with you.
Live long and prosper.